This is probably going to be the longest and most detailed video I've ever made, but a lot came to mind, and I have to start by saying I'm a narrative dom. That's not a real thing, but it's just how I identify because I need story in order to do a scene. I can't just spank a butt to spank a butt. Like, I need a reason to do it, and so I take it upon myself to develop a whole context and tension in order to get my head into a space where I can be convinced that they're deserving of it. So I have my notes, I drew diagrams. This is going to be pretty extensive. So first, to be the dom I want to be, I believe that I need to be able to dom any sub with nothing but my words and my hand. Everything else, the tools, the toys, the environment, whatever, are unreliable accessories. Those things can all fail at any time, and the only thing I can actually reliably count on is myself. So I need to be able to get through anything with just those two things. But here we are talking about long distance. Your hand is taken out of the equation. Now we have to dom with only our voice. Now that's a huge challenge, and I think long distance doming can sometimes come across as being inferior, but really what it's doing is putting the pressure on the dom to get down to the most fundamental elements of dominant power exchange. But what that means is if you can master completing a scene with just the power of suggestion and your voice, then everything else, the tools and the costumes and everything, just become an extension that amplifies that voice. But like in any other type of art, shit in is shit out. If you have bad rotting ingredients, you're gonna have a bad rotting dish. So we're just gonna start with the basic ingredient of the psychology of the scene, and if we can have that well tuned, then everything else is just gonna amplify that signal. What makes a narrative dom is drama. I borrow Aaron Sorkin's definition of drama, which is intention and obstacle. I intend to get to a certain place, but there's an obstacle in my way. And so the story is the creative means that I come up with to get around that obstacle. So in order to facilitate drama in a scene, we need to know what the sub intends. And it always comes down to two things. Number one, they want escapism, which is like getting out of their head. And two, they want to come. So with that, we create the obstacle, which is me. I'm the obstacle. So what we're gonna do is give her those two things, but we're not gonna give them the way that she wants them. We're gonna do it on my terms. And in that way, I'm increasing my value and my power by being the necessary source that can deliver those things that she wants. So to do that, we're gonna use a 3-act story structure. This is kind of just an overview of intention and obstacle. So we'll start here at pre-scene in Act 1. In pre-scene, we're just kind of living our normal lives, but we know that we're going to be having a good time. And so as the dom, we have to initiate and create some kind of signal that's going to let the sub know, all right, it's game time. So that's going to happen by identifying the problem, which is the intention. This is where we address the escapism. Pretty much everybody wants to be seen. That's the most primal human need. And so the intention that we're going to identify is a need to be seen and validated. So because I know my sub really well, I can identify something in their personal life where they're not being seen or validated. For example, they're not getting recognized at work. They're not getting the promotion, and they keep trying, but nothing they're doing is having any real impact. So I'm going to take that need for validation and being seen and recognized for their hard work, and then I am going to be the source that gives that to them. So we've identified that problem, which is our inciting incident, and it's going to launch us into the first act break, where we identify ourselves as the solution, where we will create trials that allow them to be seen and validated. And what that means is we posited ourselves as the obstacle. They need to get through us in order to be seen and validated. Now, this is where you actually go through your punishments. And I will get into this at greater detail, but the point I want to make right now is from the point where you guys start playing, there's a midpoint where you need to do a check-in. Now, I'm not going to bend over them and say, hey, I'm checking in with you. How are things going? but I'm paying attention to their body language and how they're showing up, and then sneakily ask for some feedback. If we're going too hard and they're overstimulated, we're gonna bring it all the way back down, give them some time to recalibrate, and then I'm gonna use that information as knowing where the ceiling is and build all the way back up, but eclipse right before we get to that ceiling. However, if they check in and they're having a great time, then I know I have actually more room to play with and I can escalate a little bit more in this second tier of the trials. So after they've done everything you've asked of them, and this is all the impacts and the weird little assignments you've given them and everything, you have to hit a point where you approve of all the work that they've done. Now that they've endured all the trials and you've approved that they've met your requirements, then they can get their reward and come, which solves both of the problems because they get the sexual satisfaction, but also you're giving them the validation of all the courage and hard work that they did leading up to this point. So that concludes Act 3, and then at the very end we have our aftercare. So how do you actually do the trials? This is where you want to get creative. I just look around the house. Start taking inventory of any common household items that can create some kind of sensation on the skin. It could be temperature, it could be texture. Just come up with a nice list. And then when you go into the scene, you should pick 3 or 4 of those things, and you're gonna build another 3-act structure around that tool. So say I have like dog brush, my pen, and then here's some painter's tape. I would probably get like duct tape or something, but say I had these 3 things. Now, dog brush sensation here, tape is gonna be a sticky sensation, and then ballpoint pen is gonna be a pointy, but also I can write with this, obviously. Make sure everything's clean, sanitized, go to Google and figure that out. But in Act 1, I'm gonna start with pain. So I'm going to use the dog brush and have my submissive comb at a very kind of light pace on their skin. And then as it escalates, I'm gonna have them go deeper and deeper and deeper. Then Act 2, I'm gonna have them repeat the same thing, but this time I'm gonna add pleasure, which is they need to do it while they're using their vibrator. Again, at the midpoint, we're gonna check in and see how that's going for them. If they're doing well, we're gonna add to it and make them count to 100 or give them another task that just makes it a little bit more difficult. So then next, I can have them take some tape, wrap it around their hand, and then they're gonna like stick it to their nipples and do that. And then we're gonna add to Act 2, they'll do that while masturbating. In Act 3, they're gonna have to escalate it even further. A pen, I could have them write naughty words on their body or write something specific to me, a letter, something like that, but they're gonna have to do it in combination with some kind of pleasure in Act 2. And so all of these things are gonna add up as your trials, and remember in the second part, they're going to escalate or they're gonna recalibrate with that ceiling in mind. And then the real icing on the cake here is all of the submissives wanna be talked through it. And what that is another reflection of drama. It's intention and obstacle. And so they intend to get to the implement or the punishment or whatever it is. But by talking them through it, we're creating a pacing and we're slowing it down and we're controlling their access to getting whatever that thing is that they want. That tension, the really slowed pace, that is what drives them crazy. So I want you to look at everything we went over and just see how many steps you can break it down into. Like just go as slow and meticulous as possible. And then when I go to in-person scenes, I do all the same exact stuff, but I just have more resources because I have a flogger and a cane and restraints and whatever else. Let me know how it goes.